Alright, so probably the last little fix I'm going to do in my Golf before I end up selling it probably this year, and that is the center console compartment. Since I've had it, this little section here was really, oh, some sweets and stuff. So over the last 6 months, this got really sticky and bouncy. It wouldn't go all the way back, and it still probably doesn't rest there because basically this has now gone really loose. It's firm here. This should be firm all the way along. It's firm here as well. So I've lost all the sticks that are underneath here. So we're going to be undoing this, and I'm going to show you the whole process of how to go about doing it. So let's get going. So the part you need is basically a T15 screw head. It might actually be a T10 or something like that, but this T15 worked for me in terms of getting these bolts out. So first thing is you've got to put this into drive because it gets in the way. So we're going to turn the key and put that into drive so it's out of our way. And then we first need to get rid of this panel here. We open up this flap here so we can get underneath, and then we basically pull at this lower region here. Quite firm, nothing can really go wrong, you can't snap it. You can see these bottom clips there, we're just pulling those bottom clips off. Next is the unit at the bottom here. It's going to be a bit tricky to do it one-handed, the left hand or right hand side, and it will basically unhook itself, and you just bring it out and remove these two clips on the side here to make it a little bit easier for us. Next we undo this nut here and that nut here, and then we take these side panels that go all the way along. We'll be taking those off. Right, with these side covers removed now, we're going to take off these two screws on either side here, and then we're going to pull up this whole entire compartment up and over the gear lever here. So what I've done is there's two little levers here and here. You need to push them in and lift it up. On the process I also lifted up this little bezel surround here, which is fine, it just clips back in, but it also gave you a bit extra access to these two little clips on either side here. So we're going to pull this all the way up so it's out of the way, and to reveal the gear lever there. Next we need to take out these two little screws that are underneath these rubber mats. So we need to pull these mats up and out. There's a little latches on each side, and then that allows us to pull this little section out. Make sure everything's all together. So screw one and screw two. Right, so it turns out my screws were already removed. So we're going to go on to the next step, which is basically it's clipped in. This whole center portion is clipped in around about here and here. So we need to come into this little bit here and yank it up. Right, you heard that. We've now got this little bit up, but it's still caught on two clips here and here. So we need to leverage this up, and then the whole thing will hopefully come out. We're also going to be removing this little loom or wire there, so we can actually lift the whole unit off. It is quite stuck somewhere in this area here, so I'll investigate and let you know what it is to get around that. Right, with a bit of wiggling, I managed to get it loose. So this whole top panel is now loose, but obviously this is now connected to the cigarette 12-volt adapter and the parking brake cable as well. So we need to detach these two, which is just a clip on here and on the edge here. Slide them out, and this whole entire panel should then come out and over the top of this gear stick. Right, so we now can undo and pass this over. A bit hard to do it one-handed. So that's the culprit all removed. A couple of things to note. So on the bottom here, you've got your rear parking sensor toggle. That is on the right hand side. You have to unhook that. This little clip here on the edge that we just depress and slide out. This one comes out first. Again, a little hook on the inside there. Little hook on the inside there. We pull it down. That slides out. And then on the back here, you've got the cigarette lighter. That's a big fat little switch here that you push in, and then the whole thing pulls down. And then this one was a little bit tricky to understand. but it's basically in there like this. And if you look over on the left hand side, you've got another little switch that you push down, maybe with a screwdriver or something, and then this whole panel slides out from this little compartment here. So we're taking it out of here, here, there and there. And you can see where the previous owners spilled lots of coffee, still got coffee stains on it. And you can see my state of affairs, where lots of stuff got lost, as well as the previous owner left a few things here too. So I'm going to clear all this up, hoover it up and get this back to normal and take all these little pins out. Then I'll show you what needs to happen with putting these pins back onto the slider. So just to go over what's actually happening here, we've got the slider which is sliding out, and this basically bends and goes underneath the actual matte surface. So it's really quite lo-fi on how it all works. And basically all these pins go on this side here. The very first few pins are still intact, and they basically go around this little ridge on the side here, around that curve, this curve here, and then underneath. So we need to put those little pins back on, and we'll do that now. Also, as you bring out this console, just careful of the screen as you bring it up, because some of the metal elements could scratch the screen, so be wary of that.
A few moments later.
Right, that's all cleaned up, ready to go. Fished out all the hooks, which are now down there. Clean this up, so this is all nice and clean now. Ready to fit these little arms, I guess you would call them. So let's do that. Right, so I've worked out they actually do need to be stuck down. I don't really know how the best way to do that without sort of using too rigid glue to stop this from bending, because it really needs to be applied like dots or something like super glue and reattached, because basically this needs to sort of go all the way round and over whilst still being attached to these pegs. Now I've put these in all loose. This is the last one, and I've noticed that you see these little grooves on the edges. You've got two on the middle on the inside, and as you flip it over they're on the outside. Now the ones that are pre-stuck on still at the front of this tray, they were that way round going in. So these ridges need to face upwards. Ideally you need to sort of glue down there, stick it on, and then feed it into this system, which is a bit fiddly. So I've done it dry for now, not using any glue. That's the last one. That should really be there. So I don't really know how well this is going to work, because if I pull this out you can see what it's doing. So that's your rigid platform, which should really be stuck onto here, and when this happens there's a chance that they could actually sort of come at an angle and fall out. That's rigid, still rigid. If I put it all the way out you can hear them falling already. They're all falling into here. So that hasn't worked, so we're going to have to stick them down. Right, so I've taken them all out, and these are the ones that are still stuck. You can see one's just about to come loose on that sheet, but that sheet should really, that's its full inwards state. That's why these are in place, because they never get bent. So we need to attach these pegs. That looks pretty tricky, so I might try and see if I can unhook this by undoing this drum here, so I actually can lay this flat and get it all attached and then reattach the drum, because you've got these little clips here. If we pull these up, this whole thing might come loose. Well, that's the plan anyway. Right, so I'm back in the office, but I knew that there was clips here that you could actually prise open. So with these apart, I was able to basically glue everything on, knowing I can put them back onto this strip here. So here's all the pins all stuck back down. I must have lost a few, so I made sure that at least this part was taken care of. You could stagger them out if you wanted to. So I just used contact adhesive to stick these down. Just basically stick it all down on here, then place them down. There's like little faint lines, and that is the gap between each of the blades. that line. So these blades have to go in between. You can just about see one of the lines here. So a blade would have gone there and then in the middle there and so on. So I filled this up, then I'm going to push that all the way in so that this blade here is inside this little mechanism, and put this back together, and hopefully when I slide it back it will actually then catch onto this and actually go around. That's the plan. Let's see if that actually works. So you can see that will basically touch. The pin is already in that sort of section there, and then I'm going to put this back together again. You can see it's like slightly concave, so a bit of a force did pull this thing apart. I'm just hoping that it actually goes back together again. So let's see. There you go. So it's now back and the pins are in alignment. So let's hopefully see if this works. The magic moment. So I'm going to push that back. Yes. But this is going to catch, I think. Yeah. So you do need that pin in the back here, unfortunately, because you can see it curves around and goes in on itself and ends there, which if you don't do that, that edge there basically just hits the floor and stops, meaning that's as far as you can pull it back. So not brilliant. I have to undo this, take out a few of the blades I've already put on, and put at least 3 or 4 on the back here, so it adds some rigidity and keeps that in place. One won't be enough, I don't think. Okay, so that's a couple taken out there. I think 3's enough, and I'll just have to wait for now for that to glue before inserting it back into this section here. Okay, and we're done. So this is now all nice and solid, and you can see down here as I bring this back, this now curves around and it goes all the way back to the end. And this is now all concertinaed in. So my tips would be, make sure that last pin is fully in, because that, if that goes, then almost quite a lot of them, all the rest of them go. So that last pin is crucial to be stuck down here. And if I bring it out slightly, that last pin is there, all glued in as it goes round. Right, let's get this all back and installed in the car. Right, so we're back in the Golf. We've got our center console fixed and ready to be reinstalled. It's just a simple process of just reversing exactly what I've told you to remove the whole console. So just make sure everything is all reconnected, all the various plugs are reconnected. The whole thing is sitting inside its clips, and you can't get any better than that really in terms of putting it all back together again. So I'll speed this along and show you the whole process in reverse. And we're done. So this is all now all back together again. You can see that this is all nice and solid with all the pins in place, and it all goes back nice and strong. It's not so flappy anymore. Happy with that. And that's how it was originally. So that's all back to normal now, all hunky-dory. Happy days. Okay, so that was a pretty simple install. It did take me 2 days because I had to wait for the glue to dry and then again for those last pins. I did use contact adhesive, so the curing time was 24 hours. I used Gorilla contact adhesive and it did the job for me. I think it's a really bad design by VW. They were barely glued on, and no wonder they end up falling off, because as soon as the last pin comes off and that flap starts to come out, as soon as you bring it back, it's going to rip all the other pins off with it. And that's exactly what happened, leaving only like the last 5 pretty much on the actual flap itself. So I say it's a relatively easy install, easy to medium. This last bit at the back here, there's a pin that sort of hooks that way. And it wasn't until I was putting everything back, I realized that there is a better way to take out that center console, which probably took me the most of the time to figure out. So I'll share that with you now. So as you noticed in the video, the speed through video, you have to kind of like hook this back in and then lever it down, and it will only come down or up if that gear stick is in to drive, because it's facing up that way and you can't bring it over when it's in park. If you've got a manual, it's a different story, but as long as you've got the gear stick back, then this whole flap can basically lever down like that. So to remove it, you have to basically unhook it from these 2 clips here and then raise it up that way and then pull it forward, and then it will come out of this little hook that goes into the bottom here. So I hope that helps you if you're struggling to get rid of this section here. So now back to normal. So happy with how that all install went. And that's probably the last thing I'll do for this car, because I hope to upgrade it this year. So more on that in the future. All right, so I hope you found this how-to guide helpful if you're considering of doing something similar in your Golf or a similar Volkswagen Audi group kind of car with a similar center console. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to help you. But until the next one, thanks for watching and I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.